Welcome everybody to the very first episode of the TalkWord Podcast. We in no way have tried to film an episode before and are now redoing that first episode because of audio issues. Today we thought we would start out with a bit of a banger and go over Game of Thrones theories.
Yes.
We're within, what is the date? It's mid-April, right? Or late April that it's
I think
starting.
I saw a count. We're like 45 days away.
Yeah, so we're less than 2 months, about a month and a half now. And they still haven't dropped an official trailer.
Have they not?
They have not dropped an
teaser.
official trailer.
Oh, but there's that teaser. That's right? There's like a teaser.
There was one teaser, and apparently there was another one during the Oscars, because everybody thought that maybe the trailer was going to debut somewhere that night. So there was new footage in a new teaser that night, and that's all we've gotten. Yeah, I would say that footage has all been leaked in images that I've seen, but it does confirm a few things if we do want to get into some theories, though. Well, before we do that, though, this is the first episode all over again, so I got to introduce
I was
you
going to
guys.
say.
For anybody who doesn't know these two, so these are good friends of mine, Michael and Lucas.
Hello,
Lucas.
I'm Michael.
Yeah. There you
Hey.
I'm the one who
and
sounds more handsome. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm the one who is more handsome, so it's good how that works out.
You did this last episode. Well,
It's the first
so
episode.
Lucas's advantage. They can hear you, not see you. So Lucas has the advantage on that one, I guess. But you did this last episode too. Episode -1.
Well,
You just trying to one up Michael.
Yeah, we're
right?
recycling jokes already.
always trying to one up them.
keep listening to this podcast. It's going to be fresh.
Call me the green mushroom
Exactly.
because I'm one upping everyone.
Oh. Dear God. They won't be able to see me rolling my eyes right now, or shaking my head. Okay, so the trailer confirmed. So the trailer teaser, it was the Unsullied marching into Winterfell, and the dragon flies overhead, and Arya is there in the foreground, like fuck yeah, because she's stoked about something, right?
Yeah.
The dragon or something. But everybody in the
probably,
background, it was pointed out, is like freaking out. You can see all the civilians and stuff like running for cover, and everybody's scared. So there's a lot to take in there. But yeah, it confirms that Daenerys shows up at Winterfell, which is kind of an easy one. I don't know why I would debunk that. That is where the theories begin for me. I started seeing some outlines and stuff, and people think that episode 1 takes place at Winterfell almost in its entirety.
Okay.
With Daenerys and Jon showing up to meet with Sansa.
So do you think
Arya,
that for the next season we'll have a more linear structure without as much jumping back and forth between perspective characters?
I think we have to because so many characters are in the same place now.
Mm-hmm.
There's like
less
half
of
the
a
characters
need.
are on team Jon Daenerys, and the other half are King's Landing. With like
they basically rubbed out most of the minor, like we don't have any Dorne stuff anymore.
They closed
like Sunspear.
every door in the last season, as many as they could to make it as simple as possible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume so. I'm kind of glad for that too, because I think they got a little over their head last season.
Yeah, I've met a bunch of people that I know right now that are like hastily rewatching the series.
I'm doing that.
We did it last year, which is good. I hadn't seen some of the early ones for a while, but when you watch them all in quick succession like that, it's never more clear to me how different the show is now.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
because you can tell it must have been like season 5 or 6 somewhere. There must have been a meeting where they discussed the end game and they locked that shit down, right? And everything from that point forward, I feel like, has been towards that goal.
Absolutely. I think it starts.
No more were they entertaining any ideas of character like development and actual like book service to like the novels. It was just all about the TV ending.
I think it started. I think that stuff started as soon as HBO told them you're only getting 8 seasons. As soon as they told them that, they were like, "Oh, we gotta wrap this up. Like, we can't have all these open endings."
Yeah.
Did HBO say only 8 seasons?
I think they told them that around season like 5 or 6.
Because it seems to me like HBO would want to, go as
right,
long as
they
they
would,
can with
but
it.
a lot of people say that about The Sopranos. It's like a whole
so.
thing for HBO where they're like, we would prefer to go out on top than to drag it on until people stop watching. They want to only be remembered for good
especially,
things.
you got to think, this last offseason, they just have fucking 5 different prequel spinoffs greenlit. So they know there's more Game of Thrones. Yeah.
I guess, but...
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
it seems like a mistake to try to rush something that's been like so good at letting things happen so slowly and naturally. Yeah. I feel like it's more just the fact that they ran out of book, and so they're like, okay, we kind of know where we're gonna go, so let's just go there.
This is the first time me and Michael have disagree. I don't think they are stopping because they ran out of book. I think they're stopping because HBO didn't want to continue making more Game of Thrones. Mainline Game of Thrones. Yeah, I know we're getting like prequels and Duncan and all of those things, but like more mainline Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But it also makes sense to me though that like as they are nearing surpassing the novel story-wise, like there obviously had to be a discussion being like, listen, do you want us to spoil the ending through the TV show? Like of your novels that you've been working on for 30 plus years, or are we going to craft a new ending that still pays service to what you've created in a sense that will like allow you to still do what you want to do with the novels? Because like George R.R. Martin was the first one to come out and say, hey, they're going to be drastically
they're very different,
there are characters that have already died in the TV show that are not only alive but are like integral to the ending that he has in mind for the novels. I think Littlefinger is one of those. I have some like ideas after reading all these theories that I kind of realized that some of the grander theories, like I mentioned the other day, we were in that private Discord call. I feel like some of the biggest ones are derived from the novels. Yeah. And I think that they are still going to be really important to the end game of the novels.
I do too.
I think that they chose not to go that route with the TV show and came up with like, in a sense, a more simplistic ending that is still just going to be
I think
epic,
it's going to be a TV show ending, but that the broad
strokes
strokes are going to be the same story when the books eventually finish. So you can't directly adapt a book into a TV show without making changes, and I think HBO knows that, and they're going to make the appropriate changes. But I also think it's going to be basically the same story in the books when they eventually come out, right?
I think that's what
I don't know though.
They said that George R.R. Martin told them.
I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be like a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood situation where it's like a completely different story, different ending, different characters mean different things. I think it's going to be pretty much broad strokes the same story.
I kind of agree and kind of disagree.
Strong
only because
opinion.
I think there's some main things that they completely forewent in the show, which remains to be seen. Things like Lady Stoneheart, some of the more grandiose, like mystical elements that would take a lot more explanation or build up to really pull off on the show. Things with the idea of Rhaegar still being alive. Like some of those grander theories I could really see actually being fucking important for the books.
I mean, does that take us into the first theory? Do you think Rhaegar is still alive?
I see strong evidence for it. The more I've read about it, because there's the idea that Rhaegar could be a number of
You think
people.
Rhaegar has like faceless powers?
I think the first theory I heard was that he was Mance Rayder.
Interesting. Yes.
Remember him?
Mance Rayder's the one.
Yeah.
There was an idea that Mance wasn't really Mance for a long time.
Right.
The idea that there was some shape-shifting or faceless man aspect to him giving himself up for death and everybody knowing that wasn't really him and just a lot of body switching stuff. So I've read some theories but again, that is so not a part of the TV show, right?
Not
it was
really
such a bigger
until
part
later
of
with
the
Arya.
novels. Yeah. So then there's the Littlefinger theory. The idea.
Yeah, and I've got problems with that one.
Yeah, go for it.
To be honest.
Go for it.
Well, okay. The theory is that Littlefinger is Rhaegar Targaryen, and Rhaegar's also a bunch of other. He's also Jack and
Syria
Hagar
Farrell.
and
Jack and Hagar.
So I think this is. I think that
he's a
this
bunch of
theory
people.
is pretty outlandish, but keep telling it. Keep telling it.
Yeah. So part of the reason people believe this theory to be true is before Littlefinger's death. Spoilers, but come on. in the end of the season, he is seen on a stable giving a coin to somebody, I believe like a little girl, and so some people believe that she was also a faceless person, and there's a whole thing like death pays for life or life pays for death or whatever, and that girl they switched bodies or however it works, and she's the one that died, and he's still out there, little fingering it up.
Interesting.
But and he's actually Rhaegar Targaryen. But I don't know. A lot of the theory has to do with like when Littlefinger leaves King's Landing at certain times, that's when Arya meets Jaqen H'ghar and that kind of stuff.
So like,
and
do you think that Littlefinger, whether he's Littlefinger or not, is still alive? Okay, no. So
I don't
if
think
that theory is correct, then does that mean that Rhaegar got killed by Arya just now in the end?
Well, no, because if that was Rhaegar, that wasn't him. Remember, that's the theory, is that he just paid that girl to take his place, knowing he was about to die. That the jig was up in Winterfell.
Well, what I'm trying to figure out is what I feel like there's so many like myths within Game of Thrones, like Azor Ahai and the Valakar and all that stuff. What does, from a storytelling perspective, what does Rhaegar Targaryen being alive add to anything? You know what I mean? Like, why would that be a choice?
I don't think that the impact of him being alive is enough for them to actually make that theory one of the things that happens. I think that the main twist is going to come from like something like the Night King being a good guy, or like the thing that he wants is not what everyone thinks he wants is, right? I don't think that
well, that I can promise you is true. I think that, like, given the evidence that the Night King is somebody who's capable of communication to some degree, right? Like, this is somebody which they invaded the realm once before, and they were made a deal with by the original last hero, right? So the biggest speculation and theories have derived from that exact interaction. The idea that, like, what would have been so great? Like, what would the Night King have wanted so badly to have been promised to stop attacking? Because they were winning at that point. They almost had one. So what was he promised? Like, what would have turned him around and kept him away that long? And is he back for it now? You know what I mean?
So you think that he is like, back for a thing? You don't think it was like a pact or like a timer, but you think he's back for a thing? Do you have any theory about what that thing he's back for?
Yes. We can double back to that, because the Rhaegar theory
like Rhaegar doesn't have anything to do with this now, does he?
Like a lot of stuff, No, but
okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't missing.
Yeah, I figure we'll end up going in circles around some things here, but
keep going.
Basically, we know through what we've seen. Sure. I'm just going to go from the show right now, that people were given the Night King children.
Yeah.
Up in the forest, right?
Yeah.
Craster.
Or at least Craster was, right? Yes.
Yeah. So it seems like Craster may have made some, it could have been unspoken, but made some sort of deal, because he was like living untouched on that side of the wall.
Right. That was the whole point, is that he was allowed to live on that side of the wall as long as he kept supplying the Night King with male children.
Exactly. Yeah. So there is an assumption that, theory being built around the idea that the prince that was promised, which is a popular phrase that we hear, right? The prince that was promised. It's Azor Ahai, the idea that there is this reincarnate. It's been attributed to Jon Snow, right?
Right.
But the lingo of it is
the obvious choice is Daenerys, but like
it could be princess that was promised too, and they both have all this supporting info. Yet I read a theory that was talking that the prince that was promised is actually about the Night King and the prince that he was promised.
Oh, interesting. Because that's a thing that I have a problem with saying the prince that was promised is like, who was promised it to who. So like the prince that was promised, it could very well
is a physical.
It's like that's
person.
Like that's the deal, that they promised him a prince.
Exactly. And so if we're going really far back, they link it to the idea that like the children of the forest up there, right, created the Night King and created the White Walkers as a means to preserve their species, right? They felt the humans were going to destroy them. So they built the White Walkers to destroy the humans, and they're saying that the White Walkers also want to preserve their species.
Right.
And that the Night King, that there is actually a Night Queen.
Yeah.
As well, who might be beneath the crypts of Winterfell.
Interesting.
Which is like a weird theory. But this idea that there might have been a catalyst that is bringing the Night King down at this very moment.
So
like,
I think that whatever he wants,
this thousands of years
later,
I think
whatever he wants,
so they're
has
saying
to
that
be
they think that the baby must be the spawn of Jon and Daenerys, because it is a hybrid of two of the most like powerful bloodlines in the series, like magical bloodlines, and that is the prince that he's coming to collect or something.
But to what? Like, what do they need it for? Because
like,
I've heard
he
that
needs
theory,
an
and
heir,
they're like, well, I guess,
saying.
But does he? Like, I don't understand that we saw the whole shot of him like turning just any old random baby into a White Walker, not just like a zombie, but into an actual White Walker.
I'm wondering if he's been looking
difference?
for some sort of, like that motive's obviously not been revealed if there is such a motive, but the idea that he needs a baby maybe of a certain bloodline or of a certain...
So
a
theory comes to mind. So what is the difference between a White Walker and a regular zombie? Is it the ability to turn more things into zombies?
Well, no, there aren't regular zombies.
No, I mean,
there's
like,
White
okay,
Walkers.
so
There's the Night King.
The thing that gets brought...
Well, but he's got some dudes next to him.
Yeah. He has like his like knights and things.
Sure.
But are we to assume that it is like his abilities that are bringing everyone back? Can any of the White Walkers that are brought back then continue to spread the White Walker plague? Or does it have to be a specific thing?
I think he, as like a pyramid scheme, is obviously able to raise the dead.
Right, but is everyone beneath him on that pyramid scheme also able to raise the dead?
Him and his knights are people that were made into White Walkers, maybe the same way or similar way the Night King was created. Because they are different, but I think like whether those lieutenants are in charge of all these zombies that they've risen, and when they're killed, everything they've risen dies too. And if you get the guy at the top, maybe everything will die, even his lieutenants.
Right.
That's the assumption they're all making.
Here's what
we saw Jon Snow kill one of the lieutenants.
Yeah.
And I don't remember seeing evidence of
anything else
of the zombies or anything happening. So I don't think
Right.
they would have taken that opportunity to explain the rules.
Like, lock that
so
in,
here's what I sort of...
And they didn't.
Here's what I sort of think. I think that the Targaryens are part of it. I think it's not a coincidence that the White Walkers are moving south as the Targaryens have sort of like been dethroned, right? It's the same generation that the Targaryens are dethroned as the generation that the White Walkers start coming down. I think that they play into it. Like the Targaryens, like as a family, knew something about the White Walkers that no one else knew, and the thing that they knew is something like the Targaryens have to like give one of their children every generation to the White Walkers, or they're unbound from this curse, or something along those lines, right? Yeah. And the fact that, and because we know that Dany and what's his name, Dany's brother from season 1.
Viserys.
They like barely knew their family. They were very young when they were snuck out. Daenerys doesn't even remember having met anyone else in her family other than her brother. So like whatever secret they held has been lost, and I think that may be why they're moving south, right? Is that the Targaryens did a thing. Like you have to give, and maybe it is even something like it has to be a baby born of a Targaryen and a Targaryen has to be given to the White Walkers, or else they'll like be free of their like power or whatever. And I think it's convenient that Dany is pregnant too. Like I think that plays into it, right?
Well, is not Daenerys herself and her now dead brother, are they not children of Targaryen?
No, I think they are, but I think that it has to be a baby that's given, and I think that whatever happened didn't happen because the Mad King got killed or because he was the Mad King.
See, I don't know. I feel like I hear all these theories about like the White Walkers were promised, a kid or whatever. And now that it is existing or is going to exist soon, now they're just walking on down. I don't know if I necessarily buy that. I would more say that, like, whatever the deal that was struck before to send them away with the last hero or whatever you want to call it, like, they make it sound like the world was going to end of the White Walkers, and the White Walkers just gave up and took this bargain for presumably, to have a kid. I don't.
Yeah, like there would have to be a much grander scheme.
I would say that maybe it was a much closer fight than it was, and then through the years, like, the story got more and more like the last hero struck an awesome bargain or whatever. Maybe the last hero knew that the White Walkers couldn't win, or that it would have ended up as death for everybody.
Right.
And I think maybe he also knew that, the White Walkers just want to survive like the rest of us. So instead, he sent them. He was like, "We got this deal. Like, just go back up there, build this wall." But now, with all this stuff happening and the kingdom being weak from all this infighting and everything, now the White Walkers, like, now's our opportunity to come down. I feel like everyone's thinking of it as, like, this magical mechanism that is, like, drawing the walkers down there. And I was like, it just seems like a good time to go down.
The theory was that, like, he was up there. The reason he hasn't been able to come down since was that he was building up his strength. That, like, he was weakened after that fight. But, like, the overarching consensus seems to be that there was a catalyst for him to start.
There was something that told him it's time to come down. I think so too.
And they don't know if that was the birth of, like, Jon Snow,
or like magic being
like
released.
That long ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the dragons being born is a really
dragons
popular
being
one.
born. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know what it is, but you would think that, like, they'd be afraid of the dragons, right? As like something that could destroy them. So it's interesting that you bring up that the Targaryens could be at the root of whatever's going on with the Night Kings, because their attachment is so strictly and clearly to the Starks.
Right.
And this idea that, like, that the Night King is a Stark, that the Night King's Bran, whatever you want to call it. I was buying that for a long time, and, like, that little foreshadowing, or it's not foreshadowing, but the Stark sigil, the shape that they make at the end of that episode.
Yeah.
Is, like, too much of a tease, right?
Right.
Like, it was so good, but I didn't even catch it live until I saw people point it out on the internet.
Oh yeah,
so
exactly.
No, that's my biggest question. So let's bridge into that. Like, what is the Night King's connection to the Starks? And if they come to Winterfell at the top of the season,
right?
What was that? My computer just went to sleep. Yeah. I was like, everything just went black all of a sudden. Yeah.
I don't know. I think
But yeah, like, why what do they want from the Starks?
I like to think that there's a connection. They always say there must always be a Stark in Winterfell. They always say, like, I think that that's not just like a catchphrase. I think that it's important, that it's like part of it, that there should always be a Stark in Winterfell, the same way that there always should be a Targaryen in. Like part of the magic is the old houses being where they're supposed to be, and that's what, like, holds off the guys.
It's very possible.
I get that. I also think they could be an important thing just because, like, what other bloodline has, the strength and, honor and all that stuff to be able to hold against such a terrible thing? Like, what other house wouldn't just turn tail and run? You know what I mean?
But, like, the Starks are legit. Like, it's a magical bloodline. Like, given some of the stories from the past, the whole direwolf shit, like, there's magic in that blood, and I don't think half of it's been truly revealed.
Yeah.
Because, like, what other house has, seers and things, like...
Sure, I mean, the Targaryens do, with their, like, fire immunity. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely. But what other house? I mean, every other house in the entire canon seems to be...
Do we know a lot about like which of the houses have been around for the longest amount of time? Because like, for instance, Littlefinger has a house, but it's just him in the house. Like he made his own sigil.
Yeah.
So like, right, that's what I mean. Like, are the older houses? Do they have like magic still? Like, is that part of it?
I'm not even sure if it has to do with the blood and the magic. I think it has more to do with their belief and subservient to their gods. The Starks are one of the only houses left that believe in the old gods.
Sure.
Clearly, there are people that can control magic, like the Red Priestesses. Have a lot to do with.
I had a little bit about that too with the old gods, where they say, I think they say it in the first season that they say it when Jon is like taking his vows or something like that. That they burned all of the god trees in the south. They like destroyed them all pretty recently. They talk about that. So maybe that plays into it too. Like maybe it is the god trees, like the seven, right? I looked up a little bit about the gods. That is like part of the magic too.
How many lieutenants? Like there's the Night King, and then how many other ones?
I want to say
of the lieutenants, you mean?
Because
of like the icy skin ones? Yeah.
Just from that last battle.
And how many old gods and how many god trees were there? Because what if destroying a god tree spawns the evil?
Oh, that would be interesting.
Version of that. And since the Starks still have theirs, like that's where that kind of, and they still believe in the old gods and they protect the old gods and everything. That's where that comes from.
So you think that maybe the Night King's goal is to go and burn down the Starks' god tree?
That could be
because
I think
it's
if
either
Winterfell
that,
that's interesting because
they've
had that god tree in the opening for every single season. It's
ever.
A very significant part of the opening for every single season, even when they're not in Winterfell a lot.
Yeah. Because I just now thought of that, so I don't know. Like I didn't have a note about this beforehand, so I haven't worked through that yet. But I know that there is I feel like the magical connection comes from people's belief in the old gods and / or the new.
Right.
Like I think that's been shown quite a few times with like the Red Priestess being able to manipulate king's blood and all that stuff. And also fucking what's his name? The spider. Not Littlefinger, but the bald one. Varys. I think he has god blood because they threw his bits in the fire and a voice spoke to him too, which is another theory for later. But like
well, let's move into some of the Red God stuff. More specifically, I want to talk about Varys and Melisandre. They have that moment on the cliff.
They do.
Dragonstone.
Yeah.
And it's very cryptic.
It's so vague.
Very vague. As are both of those characters. Specifically Varys, we've seen
Varys is the character we know the least about. He talks about him.
Yeah.
He talks about himself in season 1 where he's just like, I serve the realm, and you're like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. And we know he had a rough past and went through some traumatic shit, and a lot of people.
And we know nothing about his family or his like ties or his like house. We know he's a eunuch, but like, where did he come from? Like,
yeah. Some people think that he's from the bloodline of the Darkfire. Is that what they're called? The house that rebelled against the Targaryen, but still Targaryen bloodline.
Oh dang!
But they have like the same look.
Oh, I just came up with. I just got a great theory. All right, I just came up with this. Okay,
lay it down.
Remember how Azor Ahai can be read as it's a man or a woman?
Because
it's Varys. It's neither a man nor a woman. Oh,
we're gonna get a lot of hate from
30 years ago, George R.R. Martin was woke as fuck and wrote that in the book knowing that a show would present it on national television.
So that's the ultimate fucking theory. Oh my god, so good.
Wow. That's deep as fuck. We'll drop that on 4chan real quick, dude. We'll hold for you. No, so that's interesting. I hadn't heard that one, Michael, about Varys, because the one I stumbled into that I never heard of was yes, that he is a mermaid.
I love it.
Evidenced by the fact that we've never seen him from the waist down.
It's the same thing like, does PewDiePie have legs?
yeah, exactly. The top mean. And then there was also evidence that like he made it really quick from the mainland to Daenerys' ship when they were out there.
Well, I also
they're like, well, must have swam then.
The Peter Baelish is Rhaegon has a point too that's also like supported by the quick movement of characters in the last season, and that's what makes me not believe it, because I don't think that the fast traveling that happened in that season should be looked into.
I think it's convenience of storytelling that they had to like.
No,
the
directors they admitted that it was just for a means of like trying to suspend the timelines of what were going on to make it seem like it fit together better. But anyways, so Varys, I've heard some interesting theories about his origin, which I know we'll have those answered. But I heard an interesting outline theory that he is going to make a power play move. At the end of the season, I didn't hear. I
got very little about Varys.
So a theory was that after all is said and done, whoever's left standing, they kind of have a meeting in King's Landing, right? Like all the people that would head up the remaining castles and regions and houses or whatever. They all have a meeting to discuss like how they're going to govern the realm from now on. And Tyrion is the one that somehow through like, the little birds that Varys uses, ends up finding out that Varys had plans to kill everybody in the meeting. And he confronts him about it outside in the hallway. Varys basically cops to the whole thing, saying that, like, he has some dialogue early in the season about how he never, he's assisted all these kings, and everybody's always been like, what do you get out of this, right? Like, what is your goal in all of this? And he just said he wanted a good ruler, like a suitable ruler on the throne and blah, blah, blah. But that along the way, he somehow got a thirst for seeing himself on the throne. And suddenly his plays became about snuffing out, or put the same thing Littlefinger was basically doing on a small scale so that he would be able to step in when the time is right. And it somehow seemed out of character for him. I don't know.
See, the problem with Varys is that lots of things seem out of character for him. Almost his whole character seems out of character for him. Him doing anything with exactly that's what I'm saying. It's like anything that he does.
Daenerys was skeptical. She confronted him about it, and there was actually a theory about that, saying that like it seems odd that Varys would be down to support a ruler like Daenerys. And that he might have a concern that she's going to turn into a mad queen, like is known to happen in her bloodline. But they were like, why would he willingly serve somebody who has dragons, who like there's this magical source when magic is something that has tortured him so and hurt him so badly. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think we have it. We're almost 8 seasons in, and we don't have enough information on the character too.
But it makes you think that it must be crucial, right? Like there must be something critical there. You know what I mean? Like he had to have had a grander purpose.
Maybe.
And I do think it ties in with the red magic. So like Melisandre, she's gonna go back to Valyria, like she said. Do you think we're gonna see some like? Well, she said she has to go consult with. She's got to go consult with the priestesses and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think she's going to go back. I think we're going to, for the first time, see like old Valyria. We're going to see some, the High Valyrian Council, whatever, that is out there, and get some interesting info.
Sure.
Maybe.
I could see that going any number of ways.
We just don't have enough information about that stuff.
Yep.
And I feel like something that we as people do, especially when we watch a show, like we assume that this character's made it this far, they must be really important to the story.
Yeah, like Hot Pie.
But one thing, let's all the most.
Hey, I watched Lost. You don't have to explain this. Some things mean nothing. By J.J. Abrams.
Every puzzle has signals and noise, and you have to figure out what's a signal and what's noise.
It's like finishing a puzzle and being like, oh, fuck, there's pieces missing. And J.J. Abrams like, no, this puzzle's finished.
Yeah, this is the
you finished.
This is the finished puzzle.
No. I mixed 3 puzzle boxes together. And
but
you guys have to figure out what the picture is.
There are obviously pieces missing from this puzzle. Yeah. I mean, and I think we will get a lot of that. There will be so many questions unanswered in this show.
For sure. Because I don't think every character is completely crucial to the end game of the Game of Thrones. People are just people. We see so many people just die when we think they're important and survive
that's
when they're
literally
nobody,
what this show is about.
I mean,
is that people are just people. Anyone can die.
In that regard.
No, that like there were all these prophecies, all these people that were supposed to be perfect for the throne, and like they all get snuffed out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like this show is about searching for purpose in every sense of that word. You know?
Yeah.
So do you think that the theme that you just said will come into play in the last season? Like the fact that
I mean it already
right, but what I'm saying is if you think that the point is that the prophecies mean nothing. And that anyone can live or die. Do you think none of the characters who are in line for the throne will sit on it?
I think the ones that people consider to be the most likely ones.
So you think it will be like the Hot Pies and the Aryas instead of the Johns
that are left to inherit the world? Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Jaime Lannister.
Oh,
that's my theory.
That's actually a hot take. That's a hot take.
But
that's hot.
Do you want me to go into
please
this
go
right
into
now?
it. Please tell us about why you think Jaime Lannister will be king.
I love hearing people explain why they're wrong.
Okay,
go.
So I'm not saying that every prophecy is not going to happen. I think the history of Game of Thrones shows us that certain things repeat and certain things like will happen. I think this goes back to the Azor Ahai theory that there's going to be this Lightbringer, this new hero, and everyone assumes it's going to be Jon or Daenerys.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Jaime Lannister, and I'll tell you why. The Legend of Azor Ahai, he talks about how he has to forge his sword 3 times. Mm-hmm. The first time it breaks, the second time he does it even more crazy, and it breaks the third time he does it, and it costs him everything, kind of like Thanos, but it works. So, Jaime Lannister is the Kingslayer. We start off, he's a bad guy. Nobody likes him. He's not going to be a hero. He's a shitty dude.
He's dyslexic. He kills the king.
Yeah. Yeah. Then he loses his hand. And the hand was him. He says it multiple times. Like, he is so attached to his sword hand. That's the hand that he did everything with. I'm pretty sure that's the hand he pushed Bran out the window with. That's everything. He says it specifically. It's the hand he used to love Cersei. It's the hand he used to slay kings. And then you see him go through this transformation of him reforging the sword that is himself. Okay. He goes through, he learns to respect Brienne. He has this moment where... okay, so what is the legend is
so interesting though. I think he learns to respect Brienne before he loses his hand.
He starts to, but I don't think he's let go of who he was.
Sure, but the moment that he saves Brienne for the first time is moments before he loses his hand. She's about to get raped, and he protects her. He lies to protect her, and then immediately after that, they untie him and slice off his hand.
Yeah. But I think that was something that's out of character for him.
Absolutely.
So the theory of Azor, the legend says that he forges his sword 3 times. The first time he forges it, and it's all hot as swords are want to do when you forge them, and he tries to cool it off in the river, and it cracks. Meanwhile, Brienne and Jaime have escaped to some degree. Do you guys remember that scene where they're in the hot tub, kind of, and they're talking, and he breaks down and he explains to her like how hard it was for him to slay the king, because she was giving him shit for breaking his oath to the previous king, and he's like, well, wouldn't you have done the same if you were about to watch an entire city of people burn to the ground? And then he passes out pretty much. And she starts calling for people to come help him. She's like, the Kingslayer. And he says, no, my name is Jaime.
Yeah.
The next theory of Azor Ahai, the second time he makes his sword, he tries to cool it off in the heart of a lion. Now, people think that means that, and some people use that to point to Tyrion because he has a big moment where he shoots his dad, Tywin, in the heart. Mm-hmm. With the arrow and all that stuff. But Jaime Lannister helped Tyrion escape, and he kind of knew what Tyrion was going to be.
So you think
that
him cooling the sword in the heart of the lion is when he killed his dad?
Is him, yeah. And Cersei blames him for Tyrion doing that. And there's a scene where he didn't physically do it, but morally he did. He turned his back on Cersei and her...
Yes. He chose Tyrion
corruption
over Cersei in that moment.
Yeah.
Knowing what Tyrion was going to do, he chose Tyrion.
Yeah. But then it broke again, and he kind of went back to Cersei for a little bit after that.
Interesting.
And then the third one, the way he tempers his sword, Azor Ahai does, is he cools it off in the heart or the breast of, I think her name's Nissa?
Yeah, his wife.
Yeah. Azor Ahai's wife. So now people are thinking it's going to be Jaime that kills Cersei.
I've heard that theory. It's the Jaime that kills Cersei.
Completely ridding himself of the corruption, and he'll become Lightbringer. And I guess Lightbringer is it glows like fiery. Like it's a sword that glows fiery. But if you connect Jaime's hand to the corruption he was before and his golden hand now, people think that he's going to get a fiery hand that is functional. And that's hinted at with when Bran and the two siblings, I forget their names, the little blonde kids that help Bran go into the north.
Oh, yes.
Remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jojen and Mira.
His sister asks Jojen, how do you think this is going to end? And he has a moment where he's looking at his hand and they see nothing, but he sees his right hand burning on fire. And he says something like, I forget what he says, but it's hinted at that a fiery hand is going to be the end of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
I read something too, like they were saying.
I think he's. Going
there's a shot of Jaime on his horse, and the snow's falling and melting on his hand. You can see. Yeah. There's all these fiery hand type things. Yeah, but sorry. What were you?
I was gonna say. I think that Jaime killing Cersei is very likely. I think that's the most likely thing that we've predicted so far.
Yeah, but I never thought the assumption's always been that they die together, right? So the idea that maybe Jaime survives that is something I haven't really seriously considered, I guess.
The way that I would explain that, and the way I've heard it explained, is that the Kingslayer dies when he does that to Cersei, but Jaime Lannister,
metaphysically,
the Lightbringer, is now born.
Interesting.
Yeah. He has been reforged into Azor Ahai, the Lightbringer.
All right, so I want to counter that theory with the other deviation of that theory.
Well, I'm just not going to listen, so it's fine.
Fine. Discord has a mute function, okay?
Hit us.
And an unfriend function.
Just hit us with the theory.
Yeah, so the deviation of that is that Jon Snow is Azor Ahai.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And
original, Gregg.
Yeah, the idea being
we're not going for original, we're going for truth.
As an outline theory... there's going to be a part near the middle of this season where they forge a Valyrian sword.
Yes.
Because they're trying to build a weapon to defeat the Night King, right?
That's on my list of predictions. I think they're going to forge a new sword.
Yeah, and we have Dragonsteel pieces, daggers. Right. Sam had one, right? He fought off that walker. But the idea is that Gendry's going to smith it. They're going to use one of Daenerys' dragons as the fire and forge a sword for Jon to take against the Night King. The theory is that in the big epic, pseudo-climactic battle where all the realms are facing off against the Night King, whether that takes place at King's Landing or somewhere in between.
It's got to take place at King's Landing. It's got to. I think that it has to.
So Arya has the dagger that was given to her by Bran, right? The one that started all this shit. And Jon has a sword. Both of them get to the Night King at various parts of the fight. The dagger breaks on the Night King. The sword breaks on the Night King. And in that fight, they're just kind of well, shit, like that was the plan.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Those were the weapons that were supposed to do it. And so those are the first two incarnations of blades breaking in this Azor Ahai prophecy. But that the third one takes place in the final moments when the Night King, let's assume, has made his way into King's Landing. And as part of a last-ditch effort, Jon's going to have to... I don't know who helps him come to this realization. I think it's Bran. Realizes that he has to kill Daenerys with his sword in order to create Lightbringer.
Right.
And he doesn't explain it to Daenerys very quickly. Well, he does do it quickly. He doesn't explain it to her well. And she kind of accepts it in the moment because, like, they're about to die anyways. And does it, and it works. But in that battle, both Jon and Daenerys die. Right. Like, Jon bleeds out to death on the steps, like, right immediately after that battle or something. But the idea that, like, that the Lightbringer isn't a person, but, like,
it's
is
a
an
literal
actual
sword
weapon. Yeah, and that, like, in a sense,
like the Red Woman said,
they get what they want, but also lose everything. Weird, happy, sad ending. And I like that ending
because they do say that like that like Azor Ahai or like Lightbringer or whoever it is, whatever the prophecy is about, they say it has to have the heart of a dragon, right? That's like part of the prophecy.
It was the heart of the lion, isn't it? I think it's heart of a lion.
There's some prophecy about having the heart of a dragon or something like that.
But the important point to note is that the final, like, paraphrase, epithet, whatever, of that prophecy says that he goes to his wife and asks her to bear her breast so he can plunge it. So, like, I think that would work well in that situation, like him having to actually ask her to do it or something, because, like, he would have a hard time, I think, just doing it.
Absolutely.
But that would be very dramatic. Like, I like, Lucas, what you're saying, like the idea that there's all these prophecies, there's all these, you know, grand things that people think have to happen or come to fruition, but, like, the idea that they're all wrong about so many of those prophecies,
the idea that they're not real prophecies
is really
it's just
entertaining.
Like people making up stories. They're making
like making this sword and in the moment, like, it not working. You know, like, I love all these ideas, like they're trying everything they can. And
see, I don't know. I get it. I feel like a lot of these theories mean that you have to take a lot of these myths and legends super literally, and that tends to not be how folklore works, and also not how books work. You know what I mean?
I think in literature that a prophecy has to be all forms. A good prophecy comes true in all ways. I don't know if you guys have read the Sword of Truth books. In Sword of Truth books, there's a lot of prophecies. There's almost one prophecy in each book, sometimes more. But every time that there's a prophecy, every interpretation of the wording comes true. The same way. So, like, when they do say it could be a man or a woman, like, it will be Varys. If it was the Sword of Truth books, it would be Varys in those books, because that's the only way that it can fulfill the full prophecy.
Or will manifestation.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that the best way for prophecies to come true are for them to come true in all, like, metaphorical sense and literal sense. They come true, but the problem is that I think that not all of the prophecies that we've heard in Game of Thrones are real prophecies. I think that that's going to be a thing that we see, is how some of these prophecies actually came into existence, like through Bran's eyes or whatever. Through Bran seeing into the past.
That's what I'm saying, because there's so many sayings.
Yeah, exactly.
That people in entire houses live by. Like, even Lannister pays his debts. Like, it entirely shapes...
Right, which are not the words of the Lannisters, but they, like...
No, that's not even their banner or whatever. Like, everybody has an official phrase. That's not theirs. Like, you know, but you'd think it is. It's a credo or whatever. But yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. So I think there will be... Like, the Lightbringer is just something that is so lightly discussed in the TV series.
Lightly discussed in the TV series, and it's
that I just
all of the theories online are about it, and, like, what's happening, and
or Rhaegar or any of this, and
barely mentioned it in the TV show.
Well, and that's why I don't feel like it's going to be a thing where Jon has to now stab Daenerys to make a flaming sword.
Exactly.
Because that's too literal, and it's going to come so far out of left field for the TV show. You know what I mean? For a series
well, it's going to come out of left field for the characters, though. That's why I'm saying, like, they would have to fulfill that moment in a way where it makes sense in that moment.
Well,
you know what I mean? There can't be lead up to it. It can't be this, well, we might have to kill you or not. I guess we'll see in the fight. Like, that would have to be explained, introduced, and delivered in a climactic moment.
Feel
you know what
like
I mean?
that's a shitty way to do it because it's not really a prophecy so much as it is a magic spell now. You know what I mean? Like a prophecy is something that happens
but it's
regardless
all magic.
of whether
we've already decided about
well,
that.
yeah,
like
but
magic
it shouldn't be...
sent him away, magic created him, magic brought him here.
Yeah, but
magic will kill him. I promise you that.
Well, I'm sure. But it shouldn't be that, oh, this theory, I think I can relate to this. I think that's my life. Let me finish the spell by stabbing you real quick because it's the only way. I feel like there has to be a reason for it.
Absolutely. Like, I agree that there is not
reason...
enough of a build-up surrounding that prophecy so far to,
I don't know. I feel like that if you take an action specifically to fulfill a prophecy, it's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems cheap. I don't like the fact that they're like, and if there was a valid reason besides now I'm gonna get, you know, the Lightbringer sword. If there was another reason to stab her and it happened to work out that now it makes the Lightbringer, that feels more prophetic and less like a magical spell. And that's
But again,
my
like,
problem
I don't
with
think that would pay off unless we had been peppered with this idea that this theory is this one way. You know
that's
what
I'm saying. So that's why
yeah.
I don't think that that's going to happen. That's why I disagree with it, because we haven't been peppered with that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
well, okay. Let's take our first quarter break right now. We'll be right back. All right, we're back.
Yeah.
Act two.
I had to take a poopy. Sorry.
Yeah, jeez. Yeah. Shit
That's
happens.
what took you so long, I assume. Yes.
Shit happens,
Yes.
which is a great transition into Game of Thrones.
Lots
So
of
yeah,
fun.
let's talk about some characters.
Anyone in particular that you guys wanted to start off with?
I want to talk about Cersei for a little bit.
Cersei, everyone's favorite character.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now with the other two people's favorite characters dead, her son and Ramsay, Cersei's the only one left.
Right?
Yeah.
The only one who, like, exemplifies moral high ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's lost a lot though, man. Honestly, I would say she is one of the most, like, maybe Sansa holds a nice candle, but she's one of the most, like, persistent characters, I would say.
She's definitely one of the most complicated characters on the show, I think.
Yeah, because she has definitely shown glimpses of being a normal person to some degree, I think. Without giving specific examples, because there aren't very many.
There's
and
just
I don't
a lot.
I
remember
was
most of
gonna
them,
say,
probably.
like, name me one.
Well, no, it's like, I mean, I would say mostly with her children. Like, her children are obviously kind of what humanized her to some degree. But
were what humanized her.
That's what I'm saying. Like, to some degree, this is about to be the first whole season we've ever seen her without
a thing that, like,
without
tethers
really
her to
anything
the ground.
to lose.
Yeah, there's nothing to, like,
she's even
hold
lost
her down,
Jaime now.
to, like, stop her from doing things.
Yeah.
Well, she's pregnant, right?
She is. And I want to ask you guys a question about that.
Yeah.
Whose baby is that?
That is a good question. I don't know.
Right? Is it that little Jaime stand-in fuckboy, or is it...
Oh, like the cousin?
You know? Yeah.
No, that's
Remember
been
him?
gone
No,
for a
I
while,
don't think
hasn't
so.
it?
I think it's Robert
That was a long
Baratheon's.
time ago.
Was it that long ago? I didn't watch the last season.
No, it was. You know why? Because that guy shaved his head and joined a church, and then she blew that church up.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
Yep.
Oh man,
I forgot about that. But there is a theory that is Euron's kid.
A little Greyjoy?
Euron's the
Greyjoy
Greyjoy.
baby.
Okay, yes. I was like, wait.
Who, like, so obviously he thinks he's owed a kingship or something, but Cersei's, like, holding him off, right?
Yeah.
And with Jaime out of the picture, I can only imagine he's going to be more persistent.
Okay.
But obviously, like, there's stuff he's doing or about to do that he feels like is going to earn him that spot.
Right.
So Cersei has the Golden Company, and she has Euron as, like, her weapons, I think, this season.
Okay.
I think the Golden Company's going to mess a lot of stuff up for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Now that they're all square, right? I feel like that their relationships changed now. I feel like they're going to get weaponized, and I think there's going to be kidnappings. I think there's going to be raiding and sacking of various unmanned cities, unled cities around the realm. Because my earliest prediction for Cersei was absolutely that while everybody was fighting the real fight up there and had their backs turned, she's just going to start, taking stuff over.
I can't remember.
Stockpiling.
Does Jaime know that Cersei is pregnant?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe it was a scene between the two of them. Like she insinuated,
right almost
she
toward
put her
the
hand
end,
on her stomach.
Right.
And yeah.
It kind of
all
felt
that
like a
said it.
manipulative way to keep him there.
Right.
Like,
To keep
didn't
him
she
on her
literally say
side.
something like, for the three of us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this like a
put her
Maury
hand on her
episode where
stomach.
it's going to be like Jaime's not the father and then he like stabs her to death as like
Yeah.
like the baby comes out like purple skinned like the mountain and
It's like a little mountain zombie.
yeah.
Damn.
Jesus.
Well, that's some fanfic territory right there. Jesus.
Yeah. Send me a draft of that if you write that one.
Okay.
Right?
But yeah,
Pornhub
there's
original
a
series.
few surprises left in Cersei's bag for freaking sure. But I think that she's a threat that will be underestimated this season.
Interesting. I think that she's going to be the central focus. So here's my sort of like big picture ballpark overarching
Lay it out.
the season. I think
Lay it out.
I don't know the details of what's going to happen, but here's how I think what's going to go down.
Okay.
There's going to be a big battle at Winterfell, right? White Walkers, everyone, Winterfell. They're defending Winterfell against the White Walkers. Then they're going to discover what the White Walkers' motives are, and that's going to make a lot of the characters flip sides. So a lot of people are going to now side with the White Walkers as the White Walkers and now a lot of living people make their way down to King's Landing. And then I think that the big struggle is going to be in King's Landing for whatever reason. Now, see, I don't know the details of all of these things, but I think that is like, that's like, I think that the climax of the show has to be at King's Landing. The throne has to be involved.
Yeah.
I think that there's lots of like great moments there, but I just don't know any of the details. So that's where I think what I think's happening with Cersei is that she's gonna be the one who is like the last bastion almost, where it like flips on its head, where it's like the people who have now sided with the Night King and are moving to King's Landing versus Cersei.
Yeah. Interesting. Michael, what do you got on that?
Are we talking about
I just want to hear you just like streamline your.
No, absolutely.
That was good.
Okay.
Good.
Well, I just want to know, are we talking about what I think is going to happen to Cersei or my ending of the Game of Thrones theory?
I think Cersei plays a huge role. I don't think she's going to be
sure.
underestimated.
How do you think it
Either
ends
way.
for Cersei, I guess?
Yeah.
How do I think it ends for Cersei? I think the Golden Company is... they threw it in there so last minute. I think it's just a way to justify Cersei having a bigger army to make her a bigger threat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that she's going to... There's going to be a big fight against the White Walkers. I don't think it's going to be that thing where people switch sides. It's an interesting theory. Thematically, I don't agree with it as far as what the theme of the show is.
No, I think I do. I like the White Walkers being
I'm sure you agree
too.
with your theory.
I know. Gee, thanks, Michael. I think that thematically it does kind of fit that the White Walkers are people and they have justifications and that they can die just like anyone else, and that the reason that they're going down there is a just cause, or is a reason other than just I am a soulless death monster.
Okay. Well, first, let me explain why I don't think that's the theme of the White Walkers. They're walled off from the north. They literally get stronger the more that these other houses kill each other. They can raise the dead. I think they get power from the evil and sins of humanity.
Interesting.
So I think that the stand is between the goodness of humanity versus evil, and versus an unstoppable force of death, not necessarily that they are also people and have
So you think that the White Walkers are a metaphor?
Yeah. Like, they're very much more literal, but kind of in the same way that the prophecies happen, but not in a literal sense is what I think.
Okay.
I think there's a
Gregg?
reason for them. But
Yeah.
about Cersei, I think there's going to be a big fight against the White Walkers, and I think at the last second, just because all these theories talk about how these White Walkers are able to reason, and people think, like, oh, we're going to strike another deal and send them up. No, Cersei's going to try to strike a deal to be like, hey, I'll back out of this fight, let you guys win. I just want this throne. Let me control, my little happy corner of the world, and you guys take over the rest. That's what I think is going to happen. And then Jaime's going to kill her to prevent her from throwing the fight and dooming humanity to death or subservience. That's what I think her end.
Another outlandish theory. Joffrey kills Cersei. White Walker brings Joffrey zombie back to life.
Yeah.
Joffrey kills Cersei.
Oh my gosh.
I'm down for that, dude.
They told us that his body is intact. What's the timeline on reanimation there? Like,
that's true.
Well, I did hear as part of a theory that the final battle in Winterfell will involve a bunch of risen ex-deceased main characters that are around. I'd be down to see some of that.
Oh man,
I think we will see a lot of that in like live action. Like, as characters die and, like, immediately come back and start fighting as bad guys and stuff. I think we're going to see a lot of that. Okay. Well, I could see that one, too. That one's kind of closer to my theory for Cersei, because I think Cersei's going to fuck shit up at the very beginning and very ends of the season, I think.
Okay.
Because I think that, like, somewhere...
that's kind of where I am, too.
Something happened between her and Tyrion, right?
Absolutely.
They had that big council meeting where everybody was there. She told him something in that meeting, I think. And I think that Tyrion now is very distrustful or worried about something. And I've read theories that maybe he does something or for whatever reason doesn't agree with the course of action that Jon and maybe Dany want to take. And so he is seen as a traitor.
Sure.
And there's some theory about him being sent back to Cersei as a traitor, and her putting him on trial and all kinds of crazy shit. But like, I feel like a bunch of the characters are gonna want to go, like Sansa being the biggest of which, wants to go deal with Cersei. Like, doesn't trusting that Cersei is gonna help, right?
Right.
And whether that's news from like Jaime's mouth or Tyrion's mouth, somebody's gonna be like, I don't think Cersei was being truthful in that meeting. I think, we need to go deal with her. And I think that everybody else will be like, no, the threat is up here, allowing Cersei to do whatever she wants to do.
Yeah.
But in terms of the end, I think I could see the situation I said with Jon and Dany both dying.
Yeah.
And the threat of the Night King in that war, all the other, walkers die after he dies. And there's like this breath of like, we did it. And I think there's going to be a final act of Cersei's betrayal. And I think in that moment, she is going to have given
the betrayal
instructions.
comes after Dany and Jon die.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is the best moment for her to make a play, right? I think that whatever was agreed upon maybe before then, whatever, fuck it. Like, I think she gave orders to her people that, like, when the moment comes, like, here, I want Tyrion brought to me, like, here are the people I want killed, these are the ones I want captured type shit.
Right.
And tries to make, like, a grand play that then maybe Jaime is going to have to stop.
Okay.
I could see that going down, but I do think that Cersei is going to try to leverage something in the final moment, like whether it's the way Michael said or in some other situation.
Absolutely.
We know that Qyburn's been messing around. We know that he brought back the mountain.
Right.
So we know I feel like they're going to try to find some way to either control the undead or do something involving that.
Oh, so you think that they're going to like turn the White Walker army against the Night King? Kind of, or
try to, try to find some counter.
Right.
Like, I think Cersei's got things up her sleeve as a means of defense, but also as a means of maybe like trying to get everybody killed, obviously, so she can keep the throne. Well, but I do see there being like two endings in that sense.
Okay.
There's the Night King ending and then a realm on realm type ending.
Right.
Yeah.
The
You
scraps
touch on
fight.
something. You touch on something interesting where you're like, oh yeah, Qyburn like was able to reanimate the mountain, kind of similarly to how the Night King can reanimate other people, like the dead people. So that's like there's justification in this world for zombies coming back to life, scientifically in this world. Also, there's another thing: the stone people. The stone people have a similar thing, not necessarily to the zombies, but to Night Kingification. You know what I mean? Like the difference between like being a regular zombie and like one of the lieutenants or whatever.
Right.
Because they seem to be an organized
army.
group
They're like an army.
Like an army.
Yeah.
They have a thing. And they, just like how the Night King was able to touch the baby and turn it into a Night King kinglet.
A kinglet.
I guess. I think kinglet would be the right
White
term.
Walker.
Yeah. The stone people have a similar thing to where they touch you and then you become one of them.
Yeah.
And just like the Night King are able to be defeated by Dragonglass, so too was what's-his-face cured of his Stone Man disease by Dragonglass cutting off all his scabs.
Right.
What's that guy's name? Daenerys's old right-hand man?
Jorah?
The soldier?
Jorah?
Jorah Mormont.
Oh,
yeah,
Jorah
Mormont. So there's similarity. It's just, I think it's interesting how there's similarities. Like, it's not exclusively the Night King and the White Walkers that can control this thing. I don't know where exactly I'm going with that.
Well,
there's
there's
something
parallels
interesting to
there,
be
but then
said
there's
about
also
that.
like
Yeah.
Red Magic Resurrection.
Right, that's what I was going to say is, like,
of,
do you think the Red Magic Resurrection comes into play in bringing some of the, like, can you be Red Magic resurrected after you've become a White Walker?
No, but I think you can be killed with that magic.
Interesting.
As a White Walker.
So it's like D&D,
I have a
heal
theory.
to kill undead?
Well, yeah, like I think that's Melisandre's part to play.
You don't think her part to play has already happened?
Somehow. Well, obviously she had a bunch of she was sent here to prophesize and to help pull strings to that effect.
Right.
But like there's some sort of red army that exists that is like a bunch of like flame, like fire sword wielding, like that's its own nation.
Right.
Like Valyria, I feel like is a natural counter to what's going on over there.
Yeah.
Not only because it's crazy old magic, but just what it represents. Like it is both life and death.
Yeah.
And so is what the White Walkers are doing. So again, like it's almost like various levels of this hasn't been really the just screen
What I think
hasn't been pulled
we just
back
don't.
yet.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of these
But it
theories
has
play
to
on
be
different
central to what's
interpretations
going
of
on.
what the rules are in this universe. You know what I mean? And since we don't have a firm grasp on that, it's hard to figure out what could potentially happen. And that's something I think is brilliant about the show, but also like, I want to know. Like I want to know what the difference is.
I think it's both a drawback and it's both good and bad that the sort of like magic rules are a little softer. It lets them sort of like
it's brilliant.
Magic their way out of puzzles less, but it also makes it a lot more mysterious, right? So we know that all these things exist, but they can't just Deus Ex Machina them. But we know that there are some rules, but we just don't know what the rules necessarily are, and we're like, who are the true gods? Like each of the gods has its own like thing. Like what is the thing that each of the gods can do? Like it's very complicated. I like it a lot.
It even reminds me.
No, go ahead.
It reminds me of your D&D, like the idea that like magic is rare. Magic's rare in this world. You know what I mean? Like it isn't a common thing, and some people don't even believe it exists. Right. And for those that see it, like they think it's evil or they vilify it, or like this idea that there's all these manifestations, and like that's what's brilliant about A Song of Ice and Fire, is ice and fire are symbolic, like on a countering level, like. But also there's this symbiotic nature to it too, like the pairing.
Right.
And there's so many ways that is manifested in like character dynamics or religious dynamics or, in this case, like, it is interesting.
Yeah.
Because it complicates these prophecies. It complicates all this stuff.
Did you want to get into any more characters? We pretty much we thoroughly sort of like discussed Cersei a little bit. Is there anyone else that you have like big aspirations, and we can work our way to smaller sort of characters?
Let's talk about Sansa and Arya.
Interesting. Okay.
Let's talk about the daughters. Do you think I had a prediction for season 7 that Sansa was gonna be a antagonist of sorts?
She didn't sort of end up
being. They flirted with it.
They flirted with it. They kind of use it as a bait and switch almost, right? Where, like
for
Sansa and Arya are like fake fighting, and then that like leads to a climactic moment.
Exactly, and I could see there being an issue. Like if let's leave Bran aside, just between Jon, Arya, and Sansa, I feel like there's a weird dynamic where like. So out of those three of them, Jon and Arya were the closest out of any of those three.
Yeah.
And I can see a situation where like Sansa doesn't really know Arya anymore. None of them really do.
None of them do. Absolutely. She's so different.
At the same time, like I feel like Jon's closeness with Daenerys and what Daenerys represents is also going to alienate him from Sansa. And so I don't know. I see situations, and like Tyrion included, I see situations where in that group, that weird core grouping of like the good guy circle, there are certain actions that are going to be taken that are considered a betrayal. And I don't know whether Jon does it to Sansa, or Sansa does it to Jon, or Tyrion does it to all of them. But like, I feel like somebody who knows a little bit more or doesn't know enough about the reality of the situation is going to make a mistake that's like a catalyst for a bunch of stuff. And I could see it being Sansa. That seems like the easy target.
Yeah.
Simply because like Daenerys is a threat, and is mysterious, and like a lot of people on that side have only heard things about her.
Okay. Do you think
and
Arya, Sansa, when do you think that they
Yeah.
die?
I don't think Arya does.
You think Arya survives to the end?
I think Arya's a survivor, yeah.
Okay. Michael?
I would agree with that.
I think they kill Arya.
See, I think
that she.
I don't know.
I think that she does something that's too much with her faceless man powers, and that ends up resulting in her dying because she didn't complete her training and she like does it badly or something like that. She's overconfident in some way. Like maybe she faceless mans the Night King and like tries to infiltrate their army as him or something like that.
I can see that being more of a possibility for Bran.
Interesting.
Yeah,
but are you in the boat that
think...
Bran is the Night King?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
I don't think so.
But I
either.
do believe that Bran will fuck up this season in that exact situation, like a misuse of his power.
He's gonna try and warg into him or something like that.
Well, I think he's gonna stay in too long again.
Oh, okay.
And it's gonna mess something up. And whether that is something that alters the course of what we've seen now, like a lot of predictions are entertaining.
Right.
Who knows? But yeah, I do see that happening. But I see Arya surviving. I think that
I think Sansa survives and Arya doesn't. I think Sansa is the more of the survivor character.
I used to believe that, and until I started entertaining this idea that when I weigh out this idea that like Littlefinger was like her mentor for so long, right? But so was Cersei, and she learned a lot from both of them. They're both very deceptive people, but very intelligent, cunning, clever people. And I think that given this situation, Sansa's gonna be the campaign like leader for we got to go deal with Cersei. We cannot leave our backs to Cersei because Sansa wasn't at that meeting.
Absolutely.
And I don't think Sansa's gonna believe. Sansa's not gonna believe shit that they say about Cersei promised her troops. So I think that Sansa's gonna, whether she sends people down there, and I do have a theory about an assassination mission on Cersei, but like whether Sansa is just so misguided by that and falls into Cersei's trap and gets killed. There was a theory I heard about them somehow meeting, like Sansa going down there to have like a face-to-face with Cersei, and Cersei killing Sansa with that kiss. the poison kiss, and Sansa dying like once she's back at camp or something, and like they can't do anything about it or something to that effect. I could see Sansa getting herself killed trying to play the game now that she's on her own.
So I think that if Sansa dies, it'll be because she joins the game for the first time. So
tries to play it on her own.
She tries to play it
Littlefinger, without Cersei.
Up until now, I think that she's the survivor because she doesn't play the game, right? She's just a survivor. She's not concerned with ambition or Stark's names, or she doesn't get sidetracked by I'm gonna escape early. I'm gonna get the things that I need or that I want. She plays her own game, which is not the Game of Thrones. I think that if she dies, that's what will kill her. You may be right.
Well, I think that's similar to the reason why I think Arya is going to survive, because I don't see her, like, I don't know how much she's going to end up actually caring about the results of this Game of Thrones. I think she's definitely more the survivor, and I think a lot of it has to do with the scene in the show. She meets her wolf. She finds her wolf again, who's has his little wolf pack or whatever, and they have their face to face. And the wolf clearly recognizes Arya, but the wolf turns its back on her.
Right.
And I think that is very much like a significant of her. She's kind of lost her connection to the Stark family.
Right. I agree. I don't think she's a Stark anymore.
No. And
well, I wonder if something involving her giving into the Faceless Men had her lose her scent.
Well, and there's another theory.
What I mean is that I think that she's lost her family. She's been uprooted.
There's another theory that
she had to give it up. Yep.
Yeah, there's a theory that I don't agree with, but it's out there, so I'll just say it really quick. There's a theory that Arya is already dead, and it was the waif.
Yeah.
The fight that they had where, she kind of cuts the candle and turns the lights off, and then we are to presume that she wins that Arya wins that fight.
I don't
there's a theory that it's the waif, and the waif has her skin in her face now, and
I don't buy it. I don't buy it because
I don't buy it.
I think that would be an unsatisfying ending for HBO to do.
Well, what? She goes and kills the Freys first thing to avenge
I think
the girl
that's
she
not
hated family.
enough.
And that's going back to the very first theory we talked about, where Peter Baelish is Rhaegar Targaryen. That goes back to the same thing that I don't buy. Is they're like,
doing
Peter
things
Baelish,
in the name of the wrong person.
Yeah, he died trying to get Catelyn's hand or whatever.
Right.
The theory is that he actually did die in that duel, and Rhaegar took over his body. But he still very clearly has a weird, thing for Catelyn and a very weird sexual thing for Sansa.
Yeah.
So unless when you take over someone's body, you also get their memories and impulses.
No.
Then
I wrote that off to their likeness to Stark's.
That's what I was saying. Is if he's Rhaegar, then he is in love with the sister, right? So
that's a good point.
It's entirely possible because he doesn't really go
I
after.
ran into that exact.
He doesn't
same
really
hiccup.
go after Catelyn very much. He mostly goes after Sansa and Arya.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I didn't think about that. You're definitely right.
But I do agree
think
there are weird
if Rhaegar was still
issues.
Alive, I think he legitimately loved Catelyn, not the idea.
Yeah.
They seem like they're very much actually in love.
Yeah.
I feel like he would still have a more fatherly figure, feeling towards Sansa than a sexual one.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I get that he's a Targaryen and there's incest. Yeah, right. Yeah. So I guess it crisscrosses. It could go either way. But I don't know. It's still that same thing of it would be a very unsatisfying. It was me all along.
It was me.
I don't want any of those moments to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see any place for that. But
same way that people have a theory that the ending is going to be Sam is writing the book of the Game of Thrones, like Bilbo does.
Not the book. The song.
The song of Ice and Fire. And he closes the book and he's like, story complete, and that's going to be the ending. God, no.
I can see that happening. That's a little Lord of the Rings nod, man.
Very Lord of the Rings.
I could absolutely see that. I do think Sam will live to actually write the story. He's already said he's writing the history
Sam survives.
of the
That's my big call.
the
Sam
war.
survives for sure.
Absolutely. Sam and Gilly.
Yeah. Sam and
well,
Gilly.
Sam is an interesting one to talk about because a lot of people have the idea that Sam and Gilly and them are being protected by the old gods.
So something is up with Sam, right? There's got to be a reason why the Night King didn't kill Sam. Why did the Night King not kill Sam?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I gotta figure. I can't
huge.
remember.
That's
I didn't write
huge.
all this down. Protected.
Why didn't the Night King kill Sam?
Yeah. It doesn't make...
Plus, Gilly's kid is the only one of what's-his-name's male offsprings that the Night King doesn't have.
Yeah. And they never came across the wall until they smuggled that little baby across the wall.
So maybe Gilly's son is the prince that was promised?
That is a theory, though. That is a theory. But yeah, I mean, you can say that about a lot of things. Like, that John has chosen not to kill John. He's chosen not to do that. Like, there's a lot of premeditative. How did he know to bring the chains? How did he know to wait until Daenerys came back with the dragon?
He knows, like, a lot of stuff. But he always says he learns it from books, which is fair. He's a maester.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of the maesters, there's a theory that they're behind a lot of things.
Oh, you think?
In terms of suppressing information or parroting it false information to push certain ideas about
So now
things.
you're saying that this is a story with a big wall and fake news?
Yeah.
Well, the wall's coming.
Right.
The wall's
I don't know
come
where
down. Let me just say, the wall has come down.
Right.
The only thing is, instead of people being stuck on a side of the wall for 8,000 years, it's going to take 8,000 years to build the wall. That's all it is.
Oh my god.
So we can keep the White Walkers on the inside.
Yeah! Woo!
Oh god. But yeah, going back to
We
Sansa
are
though,
living
so
through
like
history.
we're living the best timeline, man.
Trump is the prince that was promised.
I think that Sansa will have motivations to like play that antagonistic role, especially if Jon's parentage is made public. I think that's going to further divorce the idea that he is a Stark.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see Jon deal with the same situation, bringing an enemy to his friends and saying, hey, these people are actually okay. We need these people to fight the real threat. And people being like, oh, Jon, you're one of them. You know what I mean? Just like with the wildlings. Like, I feel like Sansa's going to see in him a little bit of Stockholm Syndrome or just something.
Sure.
And whether Daenerys does stuff to, like, you know, complicate that, you know, because of the dragons and all these things. Like, I just feel like something's going to happen there, and whether it's Sansa or whoever, somebody's going to do something dumb.
Yeah, Daenerys is going to get super jealous and be like, back off, Sansa, he's mine. And she's like, he's my brother. We don't swing that way.
And Daenerys is like,
no,
he's
incest
my
is
brother
We're not
too.
Targaryens,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, she'll be like, incest is cool. Let me tell you about my family history.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like there's so many ways that can go, but it's too much of a boiling pot there.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of unlikely alliances. All those dudes that went on that snow mission, you know, it's like a lot of unlikely alliances, but I don't think there's a few trust issues, and especially if Jaime shows up. Do you guys think Jaime's going to show up to Winterfell before that battle happens? Or do you think Jaime gets stopped along the way? Or
I think he gets stopped along the way.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be there.
Or do you even think that's where like he's headed? Directly?
No, I don't think Jaime can go to Winterfell until after Cersei is dealt with in whatever way she's dealt with.
What do you mean dealt with? Like he left to go join them up there. Like that's what he said. He said like if you're not gonna go help them, like you know.
That's fair.
Yeah.
No, but who up there is gonna accept him outside of like Brienne?
Tyrion.
Tyrion.
I think.
But he was just on a horse trying to murder Daenerys.
I think everyone
mere episodes earlier.
That's true. But I
don't
think
think
everyone
so. Daenerys is there
at this point. I think that they.
What are you talking about?
If Jaime,
he pushed Bran out of a window. Like so many people out there have agendas against Jaime.
But if you look at the scene where they're like, these are the zombies. We brought a zombie here. It doesn't matter everything that's happened in the past. It doesn't matter that we've been fighting before. What matters is that we unify now, because otherwise we'll all be dead. I think that if Jaime shows up, that he'll show up with people and he'll be like, look, I'm here with some people. to help you fight. You can either
hell no.
You can either let me fight with you, or I'll take my guys back down south. Like,
who's he gonna show up with though? I think he'll show up with Braun.
Sorry, I missed that. I missed that.
No, I was just asking, who's he gonna show up with?
What?
Like, who could he bring?
His bros.
His bros. No.
I don't know.
He doesn't command an army.
He's still in the Night's Watch, right?
The Night's Watch?
Not the Night's Watch.
The Kingsguard shit?
Kingsguard.
No.
Yeah.
Hell no, dude. He just quit. He just quit and left the city.
Oh, he just quit. That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, like, I think Braun might come with him because I don't think Braun will stay behind alone with Cersei, who will most certainly kill him.
That's why I don't think he's going to make it.
They've contractually agreed
Cersei
not to be in
hates
scenes
Braun.
together.
Braun stays behind, Cersei will kill Braun. If Braun stays behind, Cersei will kill Braun.
Well, Braun staying or going aside, I think Cersei will kill Braun. I think Braun dies.
Oh, I don't
Braun
think
never
so.
gets his castle.
No.
I think Braun never gets his castle.
Here's what I think what happens with Braun. Braun flees.
Braun is done.
Braun flees. I think Braun leaves.
He left with Euron on the boats.
I think he's just like, no, I'm not doing any of this.
There is a theory with Braun.
That he's the father?
No. That I mentioned earlier, there's a family, kind of an offshoot of the Targaryen, of the
the dark whatever, dark fire.
Yeah, the Black Fires or something. They're an offshoot of the Lannisters, or the I can't remember if they're Lannisters or Targaryens, but the Lannisters fucked up their family pretty much. There's a theory that Bronn is the last surviving heir of the Blackfire family.
Interesting.
And that all kinds of stuff with that. I don't think Bronn is anybody.
Yeah.
But there's a theory that it's all a long con and he's going to turn on Jaime Lannister at the end and be like, this is for my father or something and stab him or whatever. I think it's super stupid.
But Bronn's too good, man.
I'm just acknowledging that I've heard it online, and anyone listening that might believe this, I hear you. But I don't believe you.
Yeah. Smash like on this video for me. But yeah, I don't know about that.
No, I don't think it's there, but I'm just saying there is, and that's the thing. Everyone has a theory about every character.
Yeah, and everybody
and
is
not every character is important.
I'm Rey Skywalker.
There needs to be a unifying theory, a single theory.
Yeah,
right.
Everything comes down to I'm actually this person. Ha ha!
Yeah.
They take their mustache off.
I know. The worst thing that happened to the theories for Game of Thrones is the faceless men. Like, the fact that someone can be someone else for years is like, oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Not even that someone can be someone else. That someone could be everyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
And that Bran can both travel forward in time and backwards in time, and he knows everything.
Okay, this is the other thing. We haven't quite talked about it yet, but the Bran is the Night King theory.
All right, let's talk about Bran.
Okay, they say that the theory goes that Bran, when he goes back to view the Night King being created by the Children of the Forest, he stayed there too long, and because he was inside the Night King essentially when he got turned, that his self got stuck back there, and now has lived this whole time and is now coming for revenge or whatever. That is the dumbest thing. Because they make it sound like
I don't know.
But we've already seen him in this current present day, quote unquote, timeline, work back and view that moment. And I feel like if he got stuck back then as the OG Night King, that present day Bran would just be sitting there foaming at the mouth. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why does he get to split into two people now?
I think the theory that Bran is the Night King is saying that Bran will go back in the new season and become the Night King.
See,
isn't it?
No, because they think he's already Bran. They think Bran is already the Night King. They think the Night King is Bran.
Yeah, because of time travel, though.
Yeah, because he already looks like him and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But we've already seen him go back to that pivotal moment.
He only looks like him because they're wearing similar body armor. That is literally the only link.
I know.
Well, and they have an Adam's apple. And they have an Adam's apple.
And their face shape is very similar.
Jesus, no. Yeah, I don't entertain that theory at all.
I don't agree with it. A lot of people believe it.
But see, now in that same sense, the problem with that theory is you know what? Sansa doesn't look very much like Arya. I don't
or
think those
any
two
of the
characters
family,
are related.
to be honest.
I don't think they're related. Like, it's that level of, it's that theory. It's like, I think it's that level where it's like, oh, the actors look sort of similar. You're like, no.
Yeah.
Well, okay, going off that, though, because part of that theory is that Bran and the Night King are somehow linked now, or linked to some degree, and that they're both going to have to die. That one will not be able to die
Instead of
without
time
the other.
travel, you're saying that they're connected.
Yeah, in some way. But that's also attached to that same theory that they are one in some sense of the word. Or, but yeah, I don't buy that. I mean, we saw the Night King was built by other people. You know, like whether Bran's in that body or not. I
can't remember. Do we find out what happens to the Children of the Forest?
So they're apparently hiding out on that island.
Yeah.
There's an isle of, I forget what it's called. That is like protected, and it's where the last of their people went. It's where supposedly the Reed dad is.
Okay.
Who people think might come drop some truth bombs.
Right.
Because he was alive, he can confirm John's whole situation.
Right.
There are theories that the White Walkers attacked that island.
Oh, interesting.
That's a goal of theirs right now, is to go finish them off and go, and like whatever power that island holds, go squash that out.
They say it's, I just looked it up, it's called the Isle of Faces in God's Eye Lake.
So that kind of goes with your God's Wood theory, maybe. That there's some magic that they have to deal with.
I think the God's Woods have something to do with it, because I think all magic comes from belief and praising of the gods.
Does it say where that place is, though? Just in theory? Or
so
are we
you
not
think the
supposed
magic
to know?
in the world comes from the belief in gods?
That's what I think.
Okay.
Or I think it comes from the gods, and people that believe in them and worship them are able to then use that
are
power
bestowed
of
with that
them.
sort of power of each of the gods. Like the Light of the Seven is like the warg abilities, and like the red people is like the resurrection, and like and there's
They're all part of the same.
Yeah.
When I'm wondering too if the old gods and the new gods are actually just the remnants of what the old gods were. You know what I mean? Like if all these other trees got burnt down and stuff before the last war, the new gods are just whichever ones managed to like not get.
I mean, maybe, but
up.
I think that when they say the old gods, it's the Light of the Seven. That I looked it up a little bit. That there aren't seven gods. Like it's the Light of the Seven because it's like the seven aspects of one god.
Oh, the same way that like the Holy Trinity is
exactly.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, but they're all the same person.
Yeah, I read a little bit about the gods because George R. R. Martin based a lot of them on real religions.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty interesting. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I could definitely see that playing a part, though. That island. I don't think we've seen the last of the children if they're alive.
The Children of the Forest. Yeah. I definitely don't think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
if it helps anyone's theories, the God's Eye Lake and the Isle of Faces and everything is in southeastern Riverlands. It's one of the few known locations of weirwoods in the south of Westeros, with most others having been cut and burned down.
Oh, so there are weirwoods still there in South Westeros. Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that definitely fits into your weirwood tree theory.
Dude, I think we're going to look back on this podcast and be like, Michael nailed it, man.
Michael
got it. Woo! And also Tyrion isn't a midget. He's just 4 years old. Boom.
So Tyrion.
Can I say midget? That was Tyrion. Bad. I should have said midget. Small dwarf.
Yeah,
small
half person.
Half
person.
That's the terminology those people prefer to be. Half of a person.
So Tyrion, does Tyrion survive this series?
No. I think he's a good death. I think he's too good a death for them to let live.
Wow.
I think he'll make it late game. Okay. But I think that at least one major character dies in each episode because there's only 6.
Oh, I'd say
think Tyrion dies
I'm
in
going to say
like
more than one every
5.
episode.
I'm saying at least one, right?
Yeah.
And I think Tyrion dies in episode like 5. I think
How
he's
though?
a great...
How would that story end? What's a fitting death for Tyrion?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking. I'm thinking a lot about like what is good for the Game of Thrones like brand. Like what deaths are good for them and what deaths.
I think there's enough favorites about to die though, especially if you're including Jon and or Daenerys. Like I could see Tyrion.
Right, but Jon and Daenerys aren't just favorites; they're protagonists. So
they are.
If they die, I think
Tyrion
they have to die
like,
in the last episode.
Tyrion's almost as central a character as it gets in terms of like his
but
influence over major events in the story.
Well, yeah, but not as far as like story structure. He's definitely a side character, despite the fact that we all love him. Nothing
like in the books. In the books, he has just as many chapters as some of the most like.
He's a perspective character in the books for sure, right?
But how many of those have
I don't think that in the sort of like climax that they're building to, he doesn't have as big of a part to play right now.
So do you resign to the fact that he's going to be a foil?
I think so.
And act as mostly that?
Yeah.
Do you think he'll end up just getting caught between his allegiances? Do you think that's what it's going to be for him?
I think he doesn't have allegiances anymore.
I don't believe that. I believe that he does believe in Daenerys, but that something has to be complicating that.
That's what I mean. Is I think that he believes in Daenerys. I don't think that there is a conflict between being a Lannister anymore. I think that once he killed his father, he gave up his claim to Lannisterness.
But I don't think he wants to see Cersei die.
I do.
I don't think he wants to see Cersei die. I don't think he cares
if she dies. I'm gonna say I don't think he cares if she dies anymore.
I don't know about that, man.
I think what I'm afraid of, I haven't gone into what I think is going to happen at the end of Game of Thrones. I do think that if Tyrion dies, I think they've set up Tyrion as like one of the truly
he's just a
good
hero.
people. He's good, he really honestly wants peace. That's what I think he wants. He's been through enough shit. I think he wants what's best. I think if he dies, it's going to be at the hand of Daenerys. Because he's standing up to something that she is doing that he views as wrong.
Interesting.
And I think she's
doing
his last
thing that
hope.
Is morally questionable, and she's still in the I won't let innocents die for this cause. And
he's going to die. If he dies, it's going to be because he's making his last stand for what is good and right in the world. That's what his whole thing has been this whole time. If he's not drunk, he's trying to do what's right. And I think
he's more compromising morally than Daenerys is. He's more willing to do what's right, regardless. Like from a philosophical standpoint, he's the trolley problem, right? He's the one who lets he immediately would kill the one and let the five survive, right? He's trying to do the right thing, but he's very like rational about his decisions.
Yeah.
He doesn't mind sacrificing innocence in exchange for an overall net gain.
Yeah. And I think what it's going to come down to is he's going to want to go for that net gain, but what is actually a net gain is not going to align with what Daenerys wants.
Exactly.
And that is going to be... Yeah, I'm not saying he's moral. No one can be morally perfect. That does not exist. But I think he has strong enough convictions, and I think Daenerys has proven that she can be more morally flexible than maybe you would want. She has been pretty violent to people.
Well,
even
that's
if
what I'm saying.
maybe
I think that's going to be a lot of people's issue with Daenerys is like knowing a Targaryen's history and penchant for violence, but also like the fear of her dragons.
All, by the way.
Oh really? Yeah, it was just lagging kind of hard earlier too.
Lucas, can you hear him?
I can hear him, but he hasn't said anything in a while, so maybe I can't.
Oh, I saw his mouth moving. I saw him talking.
I was hearing him when he said that.
Oh,
now he's frozen though.
Yeah, I didn't hear any of that. So let's take a little mini break, until we get our technical issues figured out.
All right. Yeah. Where
were we talking about?
I don't
know.
remember.
We just took a break, but we're back now.
We just took a sudden emergency break. Yeah.
Technical break.
We handled it pretty well, I think, and we got you some good audio for the.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna have to edit anything out.
Oh, jeez.
It's
Thank
pretty
God
good.
for Adobe Premiere. Yeah. Well, shit. Okay.
Right.
Well, so we were talking about Tyrion a little bit. We got into that stuff.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, I think Tyrion. Yeah, I think Tyrion's going to complicate things. I think he's going to be a foil. I think. I can't. I don't know. I see him seeing things through to the end. I do see him surviving.
I see him dying. I think he's too good of a death for HBO to leave.
Yeah. It will fulfill a tragic arc for him, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be sad to see though. I hope they do it right if they do it. That would be the best thing to see. Theon.
Theon.
Master Greyjoy.
Let me see if I wrote something down about him.
He
I don't
has
think I have
to.
anything for Theon.
He has to prevail over Euron.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
Because he is the most tragic character, I think, other than Shireen, maybe. He is the most tragic character on the show.
I don't know. I disagree. I don't think he's tragic because, in a sense, he got punished for his actions.
He did,
right?
Yeah.
He did, but it was bad, man. It was pretty bad.
Oh my God.
I think it far outweighs what he did, even though what he did
Absolutely
was shitty. He
killed
lied about it,
people.
but he didn't. It wasn't as bad as like what he claimed he did, which he in
agree.
fact didn't do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like, in a sense, he has been far out punished. I think.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like he's kind of a miserable character. Like you see in the last season, he bails on trying to rescue his sister. Like there are some things that I think he hasn't learned yet, but he has to. There has to be a close to that arc, and I don't see it being him trying to be a hero and just failing spectacularly and dying.
Yeah.
I don't think that's satisfying.
I don't know. I think that he lives, but doesn't play as much of a part in the overarching themes as everyone is hoping for. I think that he'll get a climactic ending, but it'll be in like episode 2 or 3, it'll be before the big finale of the show, where yes, he probably takes on the other Greyjoys and like wins, triumph. He's back to being Theon, but then something else happens and he dies.
Interesting. I can see him defeating Euron, but I can see his sister dying in the process. And yeah, just ultimately being some sort of kind of lieutenant for their side.
Yeah.
I don't know if the rest of that army would follow him if he were to defeat Euron and Yara wasn't there to lead.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'd even follow him at this point, but...
Yeah, I'm wondering how much of an impact he's going to have. I hope it's a big one, but I don't
think so. I don't think they have enough time
will.
to make Theon as big of an impact as it's supposed to be.
I don't think having a bunch of boats is going to be much of use in this war.
That's what I'm saying. Is like I think that Theon will get his story wrapped up, and then we won't see much of him in the next season.
Maybe. Yeah.
I could see him outlasting, like being one of the few lesser characters that survives all of this, and maybe getting to stake claim finally up there.
Oh, interesting.
As the survivor of that kind of family.
Yeah.
Do you think that in the end, I know this is a little back to the overarching. Do you think that the White Walkers will be pushed back, or do you think that they will be defeated?
I think they'll be destroyed. Because they don't have a purpose anymore. You got to remember that.
Right.
If you think about what they were actually created to do, I don't think that's a threat anymore.
Correct.
Like, I don't think their purpose exists. But clearly they have their own purpose.
Yeah. They are alive in their own right.
Yeah. So, again, there's going to be revelations on that. But
I think it's going to be the opposite.
I can see them failing at whatever they're trying to do.
I think they're not going to be pushed back. I think they're going to... This is what I think is going to happen at the end. I think they're going to win. I think...
You think White Walkers win?
Yeah, and this is where I was trying to bite my tongue a little bit on Theon and that whole thing, because I almost feel like it's going to be like an almost opposite Lord of the Rings. I think the only chance humanity is going to have left is use those boats and sail south into the unknown. If they even survive.
Being like a rescuing type situation,
but
or a dark, what is that? Deus Ex.
Yeah, because they've made a point of saying many times that White Walkers cannot swim.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
I think what I think is going to happen at the end. I think there's going to be a bunch of stuff, but I think there's going to be a lot of infighting between all like the living humans and everything. But I think at the end, the Game of Thrones is going to doom humanity to losing this war and near extinction, whether people survive or not.
I think
it's going to be a very, very dark
perfect ending. The perfect ending, and then it zooms out, and then there's a computer that says the only winning move is not to play. And it's actually War Games.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
And Matthew Broderick's there, and he's like, "Yes, the perfect ending to my movie."
What a twist! And then it zooms out further, and Samuel Tarly closes his book.
Exactly.
A Song of Ice and Fire and War
now.
Games.
You can't forget that. They
do have a dragon now
before the end of the series, so
yeah.
Those boats might not mean shit, and being on an island might.
Well, they may not even bother chasing them if they push them off the entire continent. Maybe they're just like, this is enough.
But even the Island of Faces, like, is there only protection that they're on an island, or is there actual magical protection? Because
the Isle of Faces and stuff. It's hinted at that there is magical protection.
Yeah.
Namely, with where they were hiding out before with the Three-Eyed Raven, before the Three-Eyed Raven died and before the whole Hodor thing happened. The White Walkers were being held back by a thing.
By magic.
And now that is gone for whatever reason.
I also subscribe to the idea that all three dragons will be dead.
That's what I was going to say, is we're talking about all of the dragons. What do you think the fate of the dragons is?
I think they kill the one that has been turned already.
Sure.
I think the dragons kill each other ultimately. I think that...
You think the two living dragons and the White Walker dragon sort of like explode and die?
I think they... Well, no, not all at once. I think that they will be fighting each other during the biggest battle.
Yeah.
Against King's Landing. I think that there will be weaponry to try to bring all the dragons down versus the dragons fighting each other, the dance of dragons in the sky. But I do think they will all be dead before the end of the show.
Interesting.
I don't think any dragons survive this.
I think Drogon survives.
Interesting. And he's the dragon from How to Train Your Dragon.
Yep.
Yes! Oh my gosh!
Yeah. He's toothless.
Yeah, dude. Damn,
and then we get the perfect ending, How to Train Your Dragon 3, where he finds a sexy lady dragon.
Yes!
Game of Thrones was missing Jonah Hill all this time. You're right. You're absolutely right.
No, but I think that they can't kill all three dragons. I think that it's not
that the
good.
show can't, or that like physically they can't.
I think the show can't.
Why is that?
I think it can. Just because they got named doesn't mean that they're invincible, man. Like,
No. I think that it's not good if they just die and we're back to no dragons in Game of Thrones world. Unless they die in like the last few minutes of the last episode. Like, I think that the dragons are a huge pull that are keeping people in the show.
I disagree.
I don't know anyone that's I'm only here to watch a dragon fly around. I don't know a single person.
I would only like that idea if Daenerys ends up dying at the end and Drogon is just a motherless, lonely dragon that is like owned by nobody but just existing in the world now.
I would like Drogon mounts the world.
Yeah. And then at the end of the series is Drogon in a cave with his little paws writing Song of Ice and Fire, and then he closes that book.
Yeah. Oh man.
And then eats Sam. Got it.
I think it's important for the finale, like the very final moments of this show, whatever that conflict is, for there to be no dragons. Because it's sort of like a get out of jail free card as long as they're around. And I think that, not having that be an ace that you can just pull in those final moments is going to be important. Like the idea that none of their weapons are working, they don't have the dragons off, like all of their nuclear options are going to be off the table in whatever that final.
I think that in general, in a storytelling element, it's good to have two people making a choice against each other that determines a fate. It's one of the reasons why I really like the X-Men movies, for the first class ones. I mean, like because the climaxes, with the exception
Professor
of
X and
Apocalypse, the climax of the first two are just two people talking to each other and making a choice that impacts the world. They both could kill each other, but the moral choice that two people make is really good. And I think HBO knows that, and they've shown that with like other of their shows, and that the dragons will survive and be a sort of like catalyst where these two people like meet. There will be the Night King, and I don't know, maybe Danny, maybe John, maybe other characters, and someone will have to make a choice that determines the fate. Like, they will choose, we could kill each other, or we could both survive and go back to the way things were, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think
so. Just like last time in history of the Game of Thrones.
I think that the dragon surviving is what makes that possible. Is the Cold War? It's the nuclear option.
Yeah, but I feel like that moment is between John and Danny. That's why I think that's what that sacrifice represents, is like this idea that, oh, we were, whether they come to the idea that they're going to rule together, they have this kid together now.
Right.
I don't think that illusion lasts, because I think that it's going to be outed that they're family, and maybe even outed that they're closer family than they thought, because there's a theory that she's not his aunt, that she's actually like his stepsister or some shit, right?
Yeah.
They're actually a little more related than they
theory,
thought.
Yes.
And that will turn them off of the idea of engaging in anything, right?
Wait. What's this theory that they're closer than they thought? I've never heard.
How did that go? There's a theory that he is a different Targaryen's, or sorry, that she is not the daughter of
that she's
Eric,
like
Eris,
she's
but
Rhaegar's daughter instead of the Mad King's daughter.
So they would be like half siblings.
Half siblings.
Yes.
And that, like, because it's very suspicious that the show starts with Viserys and Daenerys being basically like the guy that's like selling them and arranges the marriage between Khal Drogo. Like, there was this hasty nature of like, in this very like, like Lucas said, she doesn't know the rest of her family. Like, there are things being kept from her and them, and I suspect that there was something
there are things being kept from
that
her.
was trying to happen there that didn't end up happening, and Daenerys took the reins.
Right.
And steered in a different direction, because it was very suspicious. And people are wondering if that dude's going to show up. I doubt he would, but like, I'm sure that guy knows so much. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know
all the weird like
of
witch
that
sorceress type characters she was meeting out there that like were prophesizing things. Like there's all this weird stuff surrounding her that I feel like could come back up, could come to light.
Yeah.
But again, so like there's this idea that publicly they're going to be outed, and it's going to ruin this illusion that that maybe he can be her king, that Jon can be Daenerys' king, and that maybe that leads Jon to decide that, well, she has the claim, or whether him outing himself as a Targaryen suddenly makes him have the claim, that maybe he bends his knee to Cersei and says, listen, like, you can be queen after all this is said and done. I'll watch the North. I'll rule the North. I'm not king of the North, but like, I am not involved in any of the drama of this realm.
Oh,
like, that's my job. Cersei, you can have it or whatever, and that disarms Cersei enough to get her help against King's Landing. But I don't see Cersei helping out for any other reason other than to save herself.
Yeah,
I don't see her actually committing to any treaty, any deal, nothing. I think she already has ideas. Qyburn's working on shit. Like, she's ready to drop Wildfire, man.
Yeah.
Is there more Wildfire?
Yes. She has Qyburn building it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they're also building more dragon ballistas. I think they're also trying to come up with like some kind of weird shit to deal with these dead.
Right.
I think she's preparing for every eventuality, but I think that it's to hurt them and the White Walkers.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What other characters do we have to talk about?
I wanted to talk about the Clegane Bowl.
Clegane Bowl.
Specifically them fighting each other, yes?
Yeah, so another thing that, like, it's not a prophecy, but it might as well be.
They've sort of been setting up that the Mountain and the Hound are going to fight for seasons, for many seasons.
Yeah.
And I've read some theories surrounding that introduce, like, more thematic stuff to it that I liked. Because there's a theory that the Mountain is been brought back to life. He did die.
Yeah, and he's not all there, right? He's like
he's
basically a shell of himself. So there's a theory that, like, we don't know what Qyburn what kind of magic he was fucking around with down there.
Sure.
But there's this idea that when the final siege of King's Landing happens, that Cersei maybe locks herself away in a tower with some of the more central characters that aren't fighting. Sansa's there, like, everybody's there now. This is the last stand. That she puts the Mountain outside the door like she does to protect them, and that the Hound shows up and sees, like, he starts confronting his brother and sees that his brother's got those, like, icy blue eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
And realizes that the Night King's taking control of him, and that the Mountain starts wreaking havoc from, like, the inside, and that's Clegane Bowl is, like,
interesting.
Possessed Mountain versus the Hound, and that it comes down to the Hound having to use fire to defeat him, which is, like, the Hound's biggest fucking fear.
Right.
And so he ends up conquering his fear, destroying his, past or whatever.
That is an interesting theory, but it puts a little saying that the Mountain can be controlled by the Night King means that Cersei is probably on someone's side. Like, if the Mountain can be controlled by the Night King and he's brought back, then Cersei's been with the Mountain
No.
long...
I don't mean that the Night King brought back the Mountain originally. I mean that he can possess an undead being, a dead being.
So the question is then, has he possessed him before? And
no, I don't think he shouldn't be able to possess anything that isn't in his immediate vicinity.
Oh, so he has to be close to it.
Because otherwise he would have brought all the dead that are dead in all that realm up already, right? And just killed them from the inside.
He's different. So, the Mountain being brought back would be different than that. There may be no time.
It's not the fact that he's brought back that he gets possessed. It's the fact that he's dead.
Right.
However Qyburn brought it back, whether it's the same magic or not, he's just dead. And so I think, like, anything dead could be a weapon at that point. Yeah. I think we will see undead direwolves. I think one of the direwolves will die in a battle and get brought back.
Ghost.
Any of them. Main characters. Like, I think we're going to see giant ice spiders, all the crazy fabled creatures you've ever heard of. I think we're going to start to see. I think, like, all of it's going to start. All the stuff that, like, the wildlings were even talking about seeing up there? Like, I think we're going to see it all, man. Because we saw giants with the wildlings, but, like, that's different. Like, they're still a humanoid. They're a race. They're a species, even if they were endangered. But I think we're going to see some fucking crazy shit this season.
Right, they are, but the South didn't believe in giants, right?
They didn't believe in any of it. Yeah. A lot of them didn't even believe half the shit about the wildlings. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Or that people could warg into other creatures. Like, there's... I don't think we've seen half of it still. So I'm excited for that. Like, some of the theories people have, the things they're describing, I'm like, I hope it's all true, man. Like,
look,
I just want to see it on a screen. It's going to look great.
I know.
But I do hope there's some things they need to handle delicately, I think.
The thing that this conversation has done the most for me is just made me really want to see it.
Right?
Yeah. And again, so like, I think it's interesting they haven't dropped a trailer. And it seems to be a popular strategy now that, with this, like, cancel culture shit. People, like, there's so much speculation that can kill the hype of a movie before it's even out. And it seems like there's no way to win. It's like you show nothing and people will just shit on you for it. But, like, Red Dead Redemption 2 did the same thing.
I was just going to say,
out for release, not a single gameplay clip yet. And people had pre-ordered. I mean, people are paying lots of money for this game that they think that is going to be great without any real proof.
Hope is going to be good. Yeah.
Just because the one 7-8 years ago was good. So
yeah. Well, there's one even, like, what I was going to say is an even more example, a bigger example is the new game Apex Legends. Like, EA gets so much shit
Zero
for
promotion.
like all their loot boxes and predatory game money stuff. Zero promotion. It comes out, everyone loves it, but there's the shop for that game is kind of bullshit. Like, they got a really kind of predatory way to get you to spend money and then also your in-game stuff. But because they didn't advertise, there's nothing to... Like, there's no anger about it because nobody had enough time to be angry about it.
Yeah.
And not only that, there's no expectations for it.
Yeah.
I think that's where it's different for Game of Thrones is that the expectations are so high.
Yeah, there's been build up for... Well, and they have things that they have to deliver
I think that they're
on.
probably holding off giving us trailers because they know that as soon as we do, they'll be picked apart. And they want to make sure that
or
anticipation...
it'll confirm whatever.
That picking apart, that dissection that we're doing now with nothing
we have
happens
fucking
as
nothing.
close to the... That stuff happens as close
bullshit.
to the release of the thing as possible.
Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, what do trailers do? The trailers are there to promote a movie or a show. Who doesn't know that Game of Thrones last season is coming out?
To be fair, I would be fine with no trailer.
Yeah,
I would
me
be fine
too.
with no trailer before
you
the
don't
season.
need it.
Absolutely.
Game of Thrones just say, hey, Game of Thrones is coming out next week, and everyone's like, we're watching. I don't care what the trailer says. We're gonna watch it.
I think HBO knows that the people who are gonna watch season 8 already know the trailer is coming.
Yeah.
Right? They already are going to watch it.
Oh yeah.
The only thing that a trailer would maybe do is give away spoilers accidentally.
Yeah. There's no purpose to it.
That's true.
There's no reason for them to put out a trailer besides
that is true.
typical marketing people telling them they have to.
Yeah.
And I don't think they need it. They really don't. Because it advertises itself.
So is that the prediction? Is that the big prediction? We're predicting no trailer.
No trailer for Game of Thrones.
No, I know there's going to be one. I'm just not happy that there is going to be. But I'm sure that there is. I don't want anything spoiled, but it's going to be.
I'm going to guess, trailer exactly a month before.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Well, yeah, I could see mid-March for sure.
Well, I'm trying to think of a big event or TV event, something that happens between now and then. To premiere in a big way, you know. It's not. They're not going to just be like, "Oh, here's the trailer." There's going to be a thing they show it at, you know. Like I just don't know what that is.
When does Endgame come out?
That's in April too, isn't it?
Oh dang!
Or is that May? No, it's May.
It's May.
They usually release in May. Now that I'm also very excited for. I don't want to get into it though.
That's a whole different episode.
That's a whole nother thing.
I'd be hella down for that.
Dude,
I don't have as many predictions, obviously, but I'd be down to talk about just the end of that franchise.
We could talk about it. I have complicated feelings about it.
How are
but
we
that's
losing
a good
both
talk.
of
That's
these
a good thing.
in the same year? Almost the same month.
I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
And Star Wars died a while ago, so it sucks not having it sucks not having all my favorite franchises around. Like Walking Dead's coming back a little bit, but
No. We'll enter a franchiseless era, an era of no franchises.
Yep.
Oh,
a new golden
start making
age.
battle royale movies. Let's do it.
Well, we say that
Fortnite the movie.
They're making a Breaking Bad movie.
Oh,
so
God.
they're
And
gonna
a Deadwood movie.
Yeah. So these franchises that we didn't think were just be safe.
And things
that
we
would
didn't
be
think
a
were
brilliant
franchises.
fad.
Things that we didn't even think were franchises.
Yeah.
What Men Want. Little, the sequel to
That's
Big.
what I'm saying.
This is my grand idea for a whole Avenger style. Every movie where every actor has played multiple people, every Adam Sandler movie, every Eddie Murphy movie, they come together as all of the Jack and Jill meet the Clumps, meet everything.
Dude, and the movie is just called Perfect Timeline.
Yeah.
And every scene is directed by a different director, like those old Paris I Love You, Paris Je T'aime.
There's
They're all just different
300
vignettes
characters and 4 actors. That's what I want.
Dude.
It's going to be a perfect movie.
What's funny is that the fad has actually progressed in a natural way where we went through this weird phase of making TV shows out of old movies, like Lethal Weapon, fucking Shooter, that Mark Wahlberg movie, just random shit. So it is time to start the era of TV show movies. I want Breaking Bad. I want Deadwood. Walking Dead's dropping a few.
Yeah.
It's about to go down. And
I want the opposite too.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
I'm so ready,
Walking
Lucas.
Dead movies, and I also want a serious AMC produced 12 episode Paul Blart Mall Cop, but it's like
Yes.
super serious, you know?
That's
like,
what I want.
That's
12
what I
Paul
want.
Blart Mall Cop before 2020.
Yeah. I want 6 seasons of We Bought a Zoo. I want all of it.
You want 12 seasons of Adam Sandler pretending he's young in a TV series of any one of his old movies.
Jack
Yes,
and Jill
exactly.
adopt as brother and sister.
No, that's too new.
Billy
That's
Madison.
too new Sandler, man. I'm saying a Billy Madison TV series
Yeah.
that they don't cast a young Adam Sandler lookalike. It's him pretending he's a young version of himself.
Yeah.
Okay, I do have an
I'm
idea.
still 12.
I do have an idea for a miniseries that I want to do. Very serious, almost film noir. He's washed up. He's an alcoholic. He's seen too much shit. Ace Ventura. I want it so bad. He's just like, I don't pet detect anymore. I only human detect. And
aren't
then
they making a new Ace Ventura?
no, I don't know, but I want a TV series.
He should right now.
I think they are already gonna make a new Ace
No.
Ventura. Yeah.
I'm afraid.
Does that mean they're making like a new Wayne's World too? Are we just gonna murder our childhoods?
Yeah. Cinema Blend announces that Ace Ventura will happen. New Ace Ventura is happening. US Weekly. Yeah. This is happening.
Well, I just looked at Ace Ventura 3.
See, that's
and
too much
Ace
for me to
Ventura
handle at
Jr.
once.
popped up, and that is terrifying me. I'm not happy about this, whatever it is.
I think that there's gonna be another Ace Ventura.
No, they need to do it serious. I want like film like bloody, like and it's still Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And everything. He's gonna like oh man. It's just there's so many good things they could fucking do.
It's changed as much as Jim has, right?
Yeah.
This is dangerous territory, though, man. Like they even just dropped the announcement dates for Space Jam 2. I can't handle that, man.
With LeBron.
I can't handle that. They're gonna kill it. They're gonna kill it. I have to enjoy as much of it as I can before they come out and kill it.
Is kill it bad?
Yeah.
They're gonna kill it bad because sometimes
I'm not talking
killing
about crushing it, dude. I'm talking about killing it.
Well, killing it is like killing it, man. Like that's.
I'm
a good
killing
thing.
it. I think killing it's good.
Crushing it.
Murdering
crushing it. Killing it softly.
There it is.
All right.
And that's honestly how I hope that Game of Thrones ends. I hope that they kill it
we're
softly,
back.
man. Like
We're
I
back,
hope we
baby.
bang. I hope we bang all through the first and middle episodes, but I hope it's a soft ending. I hope it's a happy ending. I hope that
won't
Frodo
be.
sails off on a boat and
I think it'll
and
be
everybody's hugging and
bittersweet.
it just drags on forever.
Yeah. And then it turns into Tyrion, Daenerys, Jon, Arya living in a New York apartment together with laugh tracks and funny adventures.
Just trying to make it in this wacky
Trying
world.
to make it this wacky world, and Arya's like taking her faces off, and everyone's like,
No.
That's what I want.
It's called like.
See, I
it's
think
called
that
like
Tyrion is the
two
faceless
and a half
man.
people.
I think Tyrion's the faceless man, and at the end they're gonna kill the ice dragon, but the other 2 dragons live, and everyone's like, "Oh, there's only 2 dragons," but then Tyrion's like, "No, there's really 3," and he unzips himself,
And it is
he's a
Drogon?
little tiny dragon.
Yeah.
He's a tiny dragon, and then there's like kind of 2.5 dragons, and then that's a TV spinoff.
Ooh,
There you go.
I can
dragons.
get behind that. Oh man, I'm
I
down
know.
for that.
I already sent them emails about it, and no one replies to me about that one.
No one's
I
for
thought it was a
some
perfect
reason.
ending for this series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all
just
right,
a bunch
I
of
think
unread
we-
emails.
Pretty thoroughly covered it. Is there any more theories that we wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. There's a few that
No, I
I've
guess we're
written
just
down.
gonna have to do a few more episodes on the 5 prequel series that they have greenlit,
I know.
and the
Oh my
50 more
God.
years of Game of Thrones that will endure.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
It's gonna
but-
be a ride. It
but
ain't
not.
over.
Excited and scared.
Yep. What's up? Into the Woods. That's a very classy reference.
Yeah,
if you guys
it's
don't know
gonna be
Stephen
interesting.
Sondheim, that's fine. We're just
Nice. Drop a subtle
intellectuals.
Stephen Sondheim reference in the episode.
They won't get it. I think most of our listeners are Andrew Lloyd Webber fans.
Ew. Oh my gosh, I'm glad that you made that joke because I hate that's a whole different episode, but he's a hack. He's a hack.
Absolutely.
He steals from Pink Floyd, and the rest is garbage.
Oh my gosh.
Don't get
All
me
right.
started.
Is there a sign-off that we do?
Yeah,
I don't know. We haven't thought of a sign-off, have we?
Wasn't it something about our heights, or it was something bad?
Well, that was episode 1.
You guys,
the true episode.
this
1,
is episode 1. What do you mean? We haven't filmed any
No, that
other
was the
episodes
lost
other
episode.
than
That was
this
that
episode.
was the test, the pilot test episode, and now this is the real pilot. So
Jeez, man.
I
I
can
hope
like,
we get picked up.
yeah, right.
Well, smash like this video, guys, so we get picked up.
Yeah.
We'll get some sponsors
that
on for
like
the next
button.
episodes.
Right.
But,
Subscribe to our Patreon. I don't think we have one.
we don't
I
have
don't
one
think we
yet.
have a Twitter.
But, we're trying to pull some sponsors.
Sub to
I
our
don't think HBO is
subbable,
going to
like
sponsor
to
us
our
because we just
likable.
ruined the ending to their show.
Yeah, we spoiled everything. No one's gonna be happy with us. We ruined it all.
Yep.
You guys
No
just
trailer
wait.
before the premiere confirmed.
Every single one of my theories is going to be correct.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, then I'm just gonna rewrite the show. I'm not gonna watch.
And title of this episode's probably going to be Why So Serious?
Ooh.
Why
A
so
Game of
serious?
Thrones
Serious?
introspective. No,
Is every
I
episode
can't.
gonna
I
be
shouldn't.
like Batman puns?
Just puns in general, man. Life
I mean,
is a
that's your
pun.
style. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it is my style.
The name should be
All right, well-
Lions Don't Concern Themselves with the Theories of Sheep.
You could just give like a nice little like the kind of shit that would be on like a calendar, one of those mini calendars of just like an
Right.
inspirational quote for the end of each episode.
Yeah.
Does anybody
So
have
this
a good
one
one?
could be called a random inspirational quote. I'm gonna look it up.
Hang in there.
Yeah.
Ask not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee.
My page
I
quote
went
used
to-
to always be, life is like a box of chocolates. Every once in a while you get one of those nasty ones with coconut inside.
I like the
There's
coconut
a
one.
website that randomly
That's what they always
generates.
say.
There's a website that randomly generates inspirational quotes, inspirebot.me.
Oh,
So I will
Okay.
read off a selection from that. It is
Great.
a
And we
jet
can end
ski.
the episode with that.
Yeah. So here
Yep.
it is. A jet ski can be an individual. It is also a laugh.
Goodbye.
Think on that. Bye, everyone. Think on that for a while.
ouch.
Until next time, everyone tweet at Gregg at the Game Overture. Tell us what you think that inspirational quote means. Until next time.
That's not a real at. That's not a real at. It has words on both sides of the at symbol.
If you guys want a better one, here's another one from InspireBot. Antagonize new
InspireBot.
opportunities. Antagonize
Oh.
new opportunities, everybody.
Great.
And with that,
Till next time.
we say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Signing off.